Hi everyone, welcome to the Nostalgic Dragon. Today I will talk about the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and it's a new year, so Happy New Year. Many people make New Year's promises, and I've seen in my community and also on other social media that some people say that this year will be the year when I start to read Malazan Book of the Fallen. So I would like to give you some help and also some guidance into the Malazan world. First of all, it's a universe written by two authors. It's Steven Erikson and it's Ian C Esslemont. They have co-created this world together, and it's about the Malazan Empire, big empire in this world, which has, through conquest, expanded and are ruling over people, of course, and they do it in different ways. There are opposition to the Malazan Empire as well. We get to follow that, and we also get to follow the you could say divine interventions that exist in the Malazan universe. It's a highly spiritual world. It has both spiritual themes and um, political and philosophical themes, which are very interesting to explore. To me, this world, Malazan world, is unique in the fantasy setting. It's not just in an ordinary fantasy story, instead, an adventure. It gives you much more. I think you will learn a lot about yourself and about life and about society, about being human. So I've listed 10 things that I think you will get from this book or these books, because there are many books. 10, the big 10 books, Malazan Book of the Fallen, written by Steven Erikson. Then you have novels of the Malazan Empire, written by Ian C Esslemont, and you also have the books of Path of Ascendancy by Ian C Esslemont. So and there are more books, so there is a lot to read. But you can expect philosophical and spiritual perspectives, and political as well. What it means to be human and what it means, to live the life we are living. I think it connects to a lot of spiritual themes, such as suffering and hope, empathy, of course, which is very famous, especially all the Malazan books, but especially Steven Erikson's books, that they talk about empathy and compassion. There are values in these books, and I think that's important and also fun and rewarding to read. You will get to know a lot of races, of course, because this is fantasy, humans, of course, but then you have other races like the Tilanimas, Forkrul Asail, for example, and Taiste Andi. Sorry for the pronunciation, it's difficult to know how to pronounce the Malazan races and names sometimes. Um, this is a huge world. There are many continents. In the first book, Gardens of the Moon, which I have over here, uh, you get to know Genabakis, a large continent. We get to know the northern part of Genabakis and the central mostly. And the landscape is beautiful. It's a lot of mountains, it's open plains, and you have great cities like Darujistan. Actually, I think in other fantasy books, the everything takes place on just one continent, but here you have many. You also have the seven cities, which is in the second book, Dead House Gates, which is another type of continent where there is a desert Raraku, which is central for the story and for the book, I think, as a whole, you could say. Um, you will also get knowledge about something called a Deck of Dragons. It's a tarot deck, which has implications on the people in this world and also on the gods. So it's a very interesting thing that both Steven Erikson and Ian C. Esslemont uses a tarot deck, actually. And people in this world, they can ascend and actually descend. They can become godlike, you could say, and they can lose their godlike status. And you, of course, have gods, then different gods. There is a kind of magic here called warrants. Um, a bit different from maybe magic in, let's say, Lord of the Rings, which many of you know about. This is not just a wizard who has magic and can cast spells. This is a kind of magic. Warren, it could be a place where you travel through. It can be a kind of magical power that you can use for to heal people, for example. Warren's is maybe up for your interpretation of what it is. It's uh, quite mysterious, and as I understand the authors, which I have interviewed here on the channel, and you can watch it here by clicking through the lists I made. There is a quite deliberate intent to make this um, mysterious, that we cannot decode everything. That makes sense because then it feels more magic if we can't understand it, right? Um, we also have a lot of temples, sacred sites for the different gods, of course, and or different sects in this world. And we also get a lot to follow a lot of people. There are many, many people in Malazan Book of the Fallen. I advised you before to follow the groups, not the individuals. Of course, some individuals are more interesting than others, so maybe you can find 2 or 3 individuals that you root for, so follow them. You also learn about how, I say, kingdoms rise and fall. The Malazan world and the Malazan stories takes place during a long time, 100,000, 300,000 years, maybe more, I think. And by putting on that perspective on in the Malazan universe, you get a sense of, person A and his or her people, they are fighting for this, then they fall or they lose, then there comes another emperor or another empress, for example, who fights for that, and then the struggle disappears or they lose. So you can see how people fight for what they believe in, but what they believe in is very temporary if we look on it as a whole. If you look on it from a kind of historical perspective, you see that people believe in things, and then the ideas disappears, and then there are coming new ideas, and then people fight for that. So yeah, the temporary world is very well described in Malazan Book of the Fallen, and it gives you a feeling of both historical depth, but also spiritual depth, because you, at least me, I start to think what is important, and why do we cling so strongly to certain ideas, and how permanent are these ideas. So there's a lot of things you can get from Malazan Book of the Fallen and the Malazan books as a whole, because of this large historical scope. You also learn and read about, I would say, the tribal. This is a big part of all the Malazan books in different ways. The tribal people or indigenous people versus the civilized. So we can call the Malazan Empire for a kind of civilization, and civilized empire who wants to rule over other people and expand their power and want to put people into their mindset on how the world should be. And people, of course, oppose that and uh, protest and fight against that. And it's interesting to follow that. And one thing that is special with especially Steven Erikson's books, Malazan Book of the Fallen, is that we get to know the perspectives of different persons. So, person who is considered evil and one is good. Usually, it's not described in that way. It's a gray zone, you could say. But we learn both of them, their point of view. From that, we can understand life better, I think, understand other person's perspectives when we don't agree with them, and we can become more humble. Um, you will get to follow individual people as well as groups, and I think it's nothing special with these books. other people have done that before, but you get to follow the individual soldier, so to speak, because there's a lot of military fantasy, you could say here. So, but you also get to follow the power structures or power struggles and the political struggles in the Malazan Empire, and you also learn and get to follow how the gods react to this in different ways and how they try to manipulate things in this world. Um, so it's kind of focus in on the individual, then you zoom out, you focus on the group, then you zoom out, you focus on maybe the politics, or you zoom out again and focus on the divine or the gods. I think that's interesting with the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and it makes it very deep, I would say. We also get to follow the confusion, I would say, with people finding. I mean, there are humans and there are non-humans here, of course, but you get to know different uh, individuals here who have different motivations in life, and sometimes they are very committed to the cause they are fighting for, but sometimes they are also very confused and not sure what they are, why they are doing what they are doing, and I think that's a very realistic way of describing people, because I suppose we humans not always know why we are doing what we do. Um, so in that sense, these books becomes very philosophical, I would say, because you too, as a reader, can start to think about, well, I mean, what's the meaning of life, or what's the meaning of having certain goals or ambitions, achievements, and so on. So actually, Malazan books has made me read more philosophy, more psychology, for example, other mythological books. As you know, many of you, I'm interested in mythology. So I think this book, if you like mythology, I think these books will trigger you in a positive way. So, and encourage you to learn more, because these two authors, they are very knowledgeable, and as you might know, archaeologists as well, and they bring all that knowledge into the Malazan writing. So I would say this Malazan universe has more to do with the mythology than typical fantasy. If you think of fantasy of just being an adventure, which I mentioned earlier, this has inspiration from the Iliad, Odyssey, and maybe not directly, but from my own perspective, because you always put on a layer as a reader from your own experience when you read a book. I think Hindu epics such as Mahabharata and other belief systems from tribal people, maybe all over the world. I can see a lot of North American connection here, but other inspirations, of course, when it comes to tribal versus, you could say, civilization, if you want to have that kind of versus. I'm not sure. So there is a lot of things you can learn from Malazan, and here at the channel you have reviews of the books, you have conversations with the authors. This channel is not only a Malazan channel, I would say it's Malazan biased. I'm very open with that. I talk about other books as well, and if you like that, you should subscribe and, of course, like this video, and maybe tell me about your Malazan intentions for 2025. Will you start to read Malazan? Have you started it already? If you have read Malazan already, even one book, for example, you don't need to have read all the Malazan books. What did you think about my perspective on what to expect from Malazan? So with that, I hope you will have a beautiful day. It's very snowy here in Sweden, but maybe sunnier where you are, if you are on a warm place on Earth. So thank you so much, and see you next time. Bye.